Good morning. Every Bible's like you turn me to Matthew chapter 25, verse 21. That's Matthew chapter 25, verse 21. Does everybody have that one yet? Matthew chapter 25, verse 21 says, 25, verse 21. His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." And I should have said in the beginning, but I'm reading from the English Standard Version of the Bible. I want to title this lesson, Be Faithful Unto the Father. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about our book first before we begin. First of all, the book of Matthew is one of the 27 books of the New Testament. It is also the first book of the New Testament. And the writer of the book is, of course, Matthew. Now, Matthew was a tax collector. And a tax collector would be what we call today the IRS. All right? So, everybody, I want y'all to take a minute. I did this exercise at my house, but I want you, everybody, take a minute to think about the word faithful. All right. Now, just take a moment. Now, as you're thinking about it, does a particular person or word come to mind? Now, when I did it, the words that came to mind were commitment, dedication, things like that. Okay. As Christians, we have to be faithful to God within everything. All right. With our time, our talent, and our treasure. Now, the 3 T's is what I always talk about them, but here they are. There's time, there's talent, and there's treasure. Now, time is, of course, how we spend time when we spend time with God. Talent is if we can sing, we sing for the Lord. If we can dance, we can dance for the Lord. And treasure is money. So we have to be faithful in those things, in our time, in our talent, and in our treasure. You see, as Christians, we must be faithful to Jesus. But we have to be faithful to the Lord. As followers of Christ, as followers of Christ, that's our job. All right. And we also have to be faithful to His Word, the Word of God, and be faithful to His plan and His purpose. Whatever God would have us do, be faithful to it. All right. So we have to be faithful to the call that God has put on our life. All right. So, as Christians, we have to be faithful within the storm. All right. Now, what does that mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. All right. Now, it seems like we have to be faithful through it all. Just because something happens doesn't mean we stop. We have to keep going. We have to keep on moving. We have to keep on pushing. You see, we have to be faithful in the directions that God gives us. All right. So, if God says go left, guess what? Go left. If God says go right, guess what? Go right. Be faithful in the direction that God is given to you. All right? You see, we have to be faithful. We have to be faithful. See, we are faithful to everything else but God, it seems like today. We live in a materialistic world, as I've said before previously. We live in a materialistic world. Everybody has time for literally everything but God. And then they wonder why things ain't going their way. They wonder why things ain't going their way. Because they're not faithful to the Father. See, God is faithful to us, but we're not faithful to Him. You see, we devote our time, our energy to everything but God. We put everything and everybody before Him. I know it's very true. I can see it for myself. I know I got a problem with my eyes sometimes, but I can see it for myself. I can see it for myself. You see, whatever God has. See, we have to be faithful to. We have to put Him first. We have to stop putting everything else ahead of God and start putting Him first. That's what faithfulness is. Put God first and foremost. You see, whatever God is, and God puts calls on each and every one of our lives. He puts calls in our lives. See, and whatever God has called you to do, be faithful in it. All right. Now, if God called you to be a deacon, you be a faithful deacon. If God called you to be an usher, you be a faithful usher. If God called you to be a choir member, you be a faithful choir member. If God called you to do anything, be faithful in it. Okay? You see, we can't have one foot in the world and one foot in the Word. The Bible, Jesus said, "You're either with me or you're against me." You've got to be firmly. You got to put your foot down in the Word. You got to be firm-footed. You can't let a little wind, a little rain stop you. You got to keep moving. You got to keep going. See, faithfulness to Jesus shouldn't be just on Sundays either. But for some, it is. For some, the only time they're faithful is to Jesus, right? But that shouldn't be the case. We should be faithful to Him 365 days, 24/7. We should be faithful to the Lord, not just on Sunday when everybody can see us. All right, now let me break that down a little bit for you.
Break it down.
Break it down. All right, then. All right, so we only see so much. Because people come in, we only see so much of them. So they can act a certain way, but when they leave, they can act another way. All right? Now, our faithfulness isn't like a light switch. If I went back there and cut off the light, it'd be dark in here. If I cut it back on, it'd be back. If I cut it off, it'd be dark. If I cut it on, it'd be light. That's how some people work in their faithfulness. Like I can cut off the light, and I can cut it back on, No, God wants us to have our light on every single day. Every day. You see, we as Christians must be faithful, and I'm breaking another part down this. Some people are only faithful because they want the spotlight on them, or because they want money, or because they want their name called. But we're not here for that. We're here for God.
That's right.
And some people get upset if you don't call their name. And if you don't call their name, well, you should have called my name. And I'm so mad. I ain't never coming back. They have that towards attitude. Some people do it because they think I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna be famous and everything like that. But the spotlight, like I said, is not supposed to be on you. It's supposed to turn the spotlight on Jesus because it's about Him.
Yes.
It's about God. You see, the limelight shouldn't be on us. Like I said, it shouldn't be on any of us. Because, people, when, give people compliments and stuff like that, they say, well, I did this and I did that. No. You turn the spotlight on God. Yeah. You're supposed to put the spotlight on God. So you should say, no, God allowed me to do that. I'm thankful for the Lord. Give Him the credit. Give Him all the credit in everything that you do for Him. Whatever He has called you to do, give Him all the credit. Yeah. Give Him all the credit, y'all. So we have to be faithful with our ups and downs. Yeah. We it's easy for us to be faithful in our good, but what about when we're down? It's easy. Come on, when everything's going good, oh man, I'm totally with you, God. I'm doing what you say. But as soon as things go bad, I'm out the door. I'm out the door. Not me. I'm just saying in this scenario now. Don't be thinking that I'll be out the door. All right. So as Christians, we can't focus. We're not here for the crowds and the numbers. Some people are here for the crowd and the numbers. Some people, are only faithful because everybody's being faithful. But as soon as everybody's unfaithful, everybody, how do I put it? It's the bandwagon effect, because this person's unfaithful, I'm going to be unfaithful. And when this person's faithful, I'm going to be faithful, It shouldn't be like that. Like, it isn't like a light switch, like I said before. It isn't a light switch. You have to be faithful 100% of the time. Be faithful. 110%. You see, we are faithful to God, as long, like I say, but as soon as things start to go under, as soon as things start to come undone in our lives, we run from God, As soon as something bad happens, as soon as, I'm going through a mess or something like that, some people are out the door. Some people are only faithful in the good, but in the bad, they run. It's not people are doing this all the time. All right, so our faithfulness to the Lord goes out the window. Yeah. But for some, only time we're faithful to God, and other times some of us are only faithful to God in the bad. All right, now let me explain that part of it. I just explained the portion of the other part, but this part is basically like, okay, well, I'm going through so much mess or something like that, and I'm gonna be faithful to you, God, right now because I'm going through this. I want you to bring me through this. Yeah. But as soon as that storm passes, they run. Yeah. All right. You see, they face a situation, and ask God to save them from it. You know, we make, and see, they make all kind of promises in the mess. You know, when they're faithful, they make all kind of promises. They say, God, if you bring me out of this, or God, if you deliver me, I'll be faithful to you. You know, when they're going through a storm, they make all kind of promises. I'll be faithful to you, God. I'll go to church. I'll do this. I'll do that, right? And so as soon as everything is good and the storm is past, you know what they do? They run. You see, we forget about God. They forget about God. They forget about the promises they made. They forget about the faithfulness, right? But I'm going to tell you something. The Lord does not forget what we say. He does not forget the words that come out of our mouth. You see, the Lord, and it's interesting because the Lord never goes back on his word. He can't lie to us. That's what the Bible tells us. He can't lie to us. He doesn't go back on his word. But we go back on our word. We do. And I'm here to tell you that we shouldn't go back on our word or our promise to God. We shouldn't. Because I remember growing up, my grandpa and all them used to tell us, they say that your word is your bond. And if you say something, you better do it. That's what they used to tell us. So we have to be faithful to the Lord in spite of the naysayers, all right? In spite of what everybody is telling us, we have to be faithful to God, all right? Now, I'm going to explain that part to you. You know, how do I put this? I want to say it right. We have to be faithful in spite of what, you know, people, because somebody says something to somebody, they'll leave the church or they'll stop being faithful because of the actions or the words of somebody, right? But when we are faithful, we can't let that stop us. We can't let them stop. Like I said before, we're not here for them. We're here for Him. We're not here for them. You know, me personally, I could care less what people think. I'm not here for them. I'm here for God. All right. Now, another part we can say is that when you are faithful to God, we will face opposition. Now, what's opposition? It's kind of like a brick wall. You're going to face people who are going to try to tear you down when you're faithful to God, all right? All right? Now, think about it. Noah faced opposition from the people when he was building the ark. They said he was crazy. Daniel faced opposition when from rivals in King Darius' court. You know, they were out to get Daniel. The 3 Hebrew boys faced opposition from King Nebuchadnezzar. And Jesus faced opposition from the Pharisees and the Sadducees, all right? So when you're faithful to God, you're going to face opposition, all right? Now, those are all stories in the Bible, but that carries on over to today because we still face opposition when you try to be faithful to God.
That's right.
You're facing opposition, but if their opposition didn't, because you look at all these stories, their opposition didn't stop them.
No.
It didn't stop them. Noah still built the ark, and what happened? It flooded, and Noah was proven right. All right, look at the 3 Hebrew boys. They were faithful, and God saved them. Look at Daniel. The lions did not eat him. Look at Jesus. All right, his faithfulness right there. That's in itself. His faithfulness. Is the perfect example. His example. All right, so. Whatever, and like I say, whatever our position is, it shouldn't stop us. It shouldn't stop us, y'all. Because like I say, following Jesus Christ, it's not going to be easy. Being faithful to God is not going to be easy. We're going to face opposition, you all. We're going to face opposition from every side. You know, we're going to face opposition from everybody. All right? But don't let that stop you. Don't let what people say stop you from serving the Lord and being faithful to God. All right. You see. Whatever the opposition is, like I say, so Jesus will put our faithfulness on trial sometimes. He will put our faithfulness to the test. And no one's exempt from this. You can't go to the doctor and get an exemption from this, all right? We're all going to have our faithfulness is going to be on trial. Whether it has already been on trial, whether it is currently, or whether it's going to be. You're going to have your faithfulness put to the test.
Right.
All right? So, He wants to see just how faithful we are. You know, if we're faithful to Him within our battles. God wants to see that. All right? You know, and think about it, even in relationships. Everybody wants somebody that's faithful, right? I would hope. Yeah, I would hope. Everybody wants somebody that's faithful, right? So, like I say, everybody wants somebody. So God wants the same thing from us. He wants us to be what? Faithful. Thank you. So I'm going to tell you another part. The devil does not want us to be faithful to Jesus. You see, the devil will do everything he can to stop us. He'll do everything to distract us. But we just got to keep on keeping on. All right? So we have to be faithful within our witness as well. Our witness. All right? So when we talk to people about Jesus, we have to be firmly, like I said, firmly footed. Keep talking to people about Jesus. Keep talking to people about the Lord, you know. And don't let it, like I say, don't let opposition stop you. Keep going. Keep talking about Jesus. Keep talking about Romans 10:9. Keep talking about John 3:16. Keep talking about who Jesus is. All right? And that's a part of being faithful. You know, be faithful in your witness, as I said before. Be faithful when you talk about Jesus. You see, we as Christians must be faithful on our walk with God. Be faithful. This road we're walking, as I'm calling it, is the Christian road. All right. So on that road, we have to be faithful. We can't afford to take any detours, you all. We can't take no detours on this road, y'all. We can't take. There's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts, y'all. We can't call Google Maps or Siri to give us a way to go around it, y'all. We have to go on this Christian. We have to be on this Christian road, right? We can't let nobody stop us on this road of faithfulness. All right. So as Christians, we shouldn't be wayward in our faithfulness, as I said before. We shouldn't fall to the wayside. All right. We shouldn't fall to the wayside. We should stay on the road that God has laid out. Stay on that road. You see, we must be faithful and stay on the battlefield for the Lord. Stay on the battlefield for the Lord in faithfulness. All right? Now, I know, I think about this sometimes, when it is my time, people will get up and they'll say, Reverend White, well, Marchall was a good preacher, and Marchall graduated this year, and Marchall did this, and Marchall did that, I think about that. And whoever's doing the service, King Tears, whoever, Cook Walden, whoever's doing it. People are going to say all kind of things, but I just want them to say one thing about me, that I was faithful. I want them to say that I was faithful, that I was faithful to the end. I want them to say that about me. They can say I was a good leader and I did this and I was active in the community, but I want them to say I was faithful. Faithful to the Lord, faithful to what He called me to do. I love the other accolades. They're going to say and stuff like that, and that stuff is going to be true. I am a preacher. I did graduate. I did all this stuff, but I want them to say I was faithful to the God, faithful to the Lord. I want them to say that. I want them to say that about me. All right. So I look at it like that. They get up and say all kind of stuff about you. But I just want them to say I was faithful to God. So Jesus himself was faithful to His purpose. Jesus himself was faithful to His purpose. You see, God had given him the purpose. God had given him a purpose, and he fulfilled His purpose. He fulfilled His purpose on the cross for us. So if Jesus was faithful to His word and faithful to His purpose, then we have to do the same. We have to do the same. We have to do the same. All right. Like I say, something could happen and we could fall to the wayside. I know that. I know things will rise up and things will come in our lives and we feel like we can't deal with them or it's too much for us. But remember what the Word of God says. He says He's with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. He's with you through the mist. He's with you through the midst of your battle, y'all. You don't walk the Christian road by yourself. You don't walk it by yourself. Because when you got Jesus on that road, you got Jesus with you. He's with you every step of the way. And when you feel like you're on the wayside, when you feel like you're going to the wayside, just call on His name and He'll help you. When you feel like you're stumbling. When you feel like you're stumbling, He'll help you up. You have somebody like Jesus who you can call upon. He won't let you fall. He won't let you fall. Just call on His name. Call on His name. Some of us don't know how to be faithful. But if you call on Jesus' name, he'll help you be faithful. He'll help you to be faithful. When you got opposition and people who try to tear you down, you say, Lord, I'm still being faithful, but these people are all around me trying to tear me down. The Lord will take care of that. And see, the Lord will step ahead of you. And he'll say, get out the way. Get out the way. And he'll say, come on, my son. Come on, my daughter. We're going to get through this. He's going to say, come on, let's go. And see, as being faithful to God, that means following him. So when God moves those people out of the way, you follow him. So you say, God's right there. I'm going right behind you, Jesus. And see, the Lord is not just in front of you. I'm going to tell you that. He's in back of you. He's on the side of you. He's on this side. He's in you. I just get so excited when we talk about Jesus. Ain't nothing wrong with having a good time in the Lord. When the Lord does that to you. This is not me. This is God pouring into me. So, when you walk in this road, like I said, you're going to face some peep stuff. But don't let it stop you. Don't let the obstacle, the storm, the circumstance, the tribulation, the trial stop you. You got to keep moving. Keep moving on this road. Keep moving on this Christian road. Don't let the opposition stop you. Because that's what they want. They want to stop us from being faithful. They want us to turn away from God and turn the way they turn towards them. We can't do that as followers of Christ. We got to remain faithful on this road, on this Christian road, right? So as I close, I want to say this. To the believer, stay faithful, stay the course on this road. And to the non-believer, come to God, who is faithful to love you and faithful to forgive. Thank you. Good morning.